As I discussed in the math video, the games I created for ClassQuest are used for consistent practice to help the students attain mastery over specific skills while strongly reinforcing other basic math skills. Currently, there are two main games I will be using in the classroom: Raids and Math Battles. I will go over a general explanation of how the games work, but will focus more on how I am able to differentiate within each game and target student practice. Raids would be considered the main math game, as it allows for diverse practice from multiple concepts in math and allows a great degree of differentiation for the students. But before I go over how I diversify and differentiate the content, allow me to explain the general concept of how Raids work. Keep in mind that as of right now, I will be focusing on 4th grade math content, and for this example, I will be using multi-digit multiplication. Raids are done in groups of 3, although adjustments can be made. Students will use their equipment cards to face off against raid bosses and will have to work together with their raid group to defeat it. Depending on their role, each student will have a different deck of cards filled with skills and abilities, while the raid boss will also have a deck with abilities, but will mostly contain different math problems. Since the STAR test highly emphasizes mathematical word problems, the problems on the cards are also word problems, where they have to fill in variables using number cards on a game mat, although the game mat may change depending on the content covered in the game. The mat being used is designed to reinforce place value number concepts, ensuring over time that they know the correct place value of each digit. After the turn players read the card, they will have to choose which numbers to plug in on the game mat and what operation must be used. Upon doing so, their group will then start a sand timer and solve the problem within the given time. When the time is up, or after all the students are finished, they will compare answers and, if needed, use a calculator to ensure they find the correct answer. Depending on the boss card, they will calculate the damage they took, and if they answered the question correctly, they will calculate the damage they did to the boss. After the boss turn, each student will draw 3 cards from their deck and have the opportunity to play 1 card from their hand before returning to the boss turn. They will do this until they or the boss is defeated. If they manage to defeat the boss, the difficulty will increase, which also increases the boss's life points and the rewards gained from defeating it. If needed, I can also replace easier cards with higher leveled cards to really challenge their knowledge and abilities. Now that the basic concept of Raids has been explained, allow me to expand on how this can be diversified and differentiated within the classroom. Depending on what we're learning, I've created different boss decks that are focused on different math concepts. There will be decks and placemats that are focused on the following content standards: decomposing fractions into sum of fractions, comparing the value of fractions, adding and subtracting fractions, adding and subtracting whole numbers with decimals to the hundreds place, multi-digit multiplication, 4-digit numbers divided by 1-digit numbers, solving multi-step problems with multiplication and division, and finding the perimeter of rectangles using whole numbers. As we learn and practice different mathematical concepts, it keeps the game fresh, as I will introduce new bosses with new abilities and new decks. Now, depending on the students in the raid group, I can differentiate decks based on their skill level with cards and questions that are better suited for them. I also have multiple sand timers, so depending on the group and how much time they need to answer a question, they can use a 1, 2, or 3-minute timer. Additionally, if there are multiple skills a group of students need to work on, I can create customized decks to target specific skills the students need to practice. Overall, Raids function as more than just a simple math game in the class. They serve as consistent targeted practice for a variety of math concepts throughout the entirety of the year, while remaining aligned to content standards and providing a strong practice for the STAR test, while at the same time keeping them engaged in their learning. While not as complex as Raids, Math Battles provide consistent practice with basic math facts for all 4 basic operations. Instead of working together, students will be competing against one another, or if they're not feeling competitive, there is a mode where they can play solo and still earn rewards. Before I get into how I accommodate individual students, allow me to explain the basics of the game. Since multiplication is heavily used in 4th grade, I will use it during my example. The game is essentially War with a 20-card playing card deck. The students will use their equipment cards and will also have a deck with abilities depending on their role. Each player will place down a card, multiply the two numbers, and whoever answers correctly first takes the card. After all 20 playing cards are played, each player will count how many cards are in their possession and will deal damage to their opponent based on how many cards they have. After, the students will draw 3 cards from their ability deck, and whoever has more playing cards in their possession uses their ability first. After calculating damage, the players reshuffle the playing cards and repeat the process until one player's life points equals 0. Aside from basic math facts, the students will also compare values using the greater than, less than, and equal to symbols based on the card effects of their abilities. This was done to ensure each student knows each symbol and exactly how to use them. For solo play, the student will be facing a non-human opponent and will be using flashcards instead of playing cards. The opponent has set abilities and the player will be playing against a timer instead. However many flashcards they answer within the given time is how much damage they will deal to their opponent. The cards they did not finish will count as damage against them based on the strength of the opponent. The purpose of math battles is to ensure their math facts in all 4 basic operations are highly accurate, as these math facts are used constantly within multiple concepts we'll be covering over the year. Multi-digit multiplication and long division consist of repetition of multiplication facts. For students struggling with facts of a certain number, they will be given an additional card that grants them a bonus when they win a round involving that number. This motivates the student to learn the facts for that number and over time grants them mastery over all numbers for that operation. In conclusion, this was just a general overview of how these 2 games work and how I'm able to differentiate and accommodate the students within the game. Please understand that each game can be tweaked and changed to better tailor to the students if need be. Although these are the only 2 games I presented, there are several other games in the making. So if you did enjoy this video and my teaching methods, please explore other parts of my site if you haven't already. Below are links and examples of resources mentioned in the video. Thank you so much for your time and for watching.